Did Fila copy Adidas? It really looks that way. What's up everybody, I'm Seth Fowler and today I'm reviewing the Fila version of a very popular Adidas sneaker, the Fila Ray Tracer. I gotta be honest, I feel some type of way about this. No, that was not it. The Fila Ray Tracer is a relatively new sneaker from Fila. It released at the end of last year, and it definitely has that sort of dad shoe or bulky sneaker vibe to it. Now, even though the color blocking and the paneling isn't exactly the same between the Fila Ray Tracer and the Adidas Yeezy Boost 700, there's definitely some heavy inspiration drawn from this sneaker. Now, I'm not gonna bash the Fila Ray Tracer the way that I bashed some other sneakers in previous videos, Skechers Yeezys, because I don't think it's a straight up knockoff. It definitely has some heavy Yeezy 700 inspiration, but I don't think it's too over the top, and to be completely honest, it does give people who can't afford the Yeezy 700 a more viable option. So before we jump into any more comparisons, let's take a quick look at the shoe and see what materials make up this sneaker. The upper of the Fila Ray Tracer is primarily composed of this padded gray mesh, and above that you have some leather panels and some suede panels in blacks and grays. The rope laces come in this sort of caution tape yellow pattern, and then just beneath that you have another mesh material making up the tongue. At the top of the tongue you've got some synthetic gray leather with the Fila logo embroidered into it. The sock liner of the shoe comes in a dark gray and is pretty well padded, and I've got to say, in the limited amount of time that I've worn this sneaker, it's pretty comfortable on foot. The insole of the shoe also comes in dark navy with the Fila logo printed on the heel. As for fit, the Fila Ray Tracer does fit true to size, which is obviously a good thing. But if you have the option to try the shoe on first before you buy it, which you shouldn't have too much trouble doing because they're pretty much available in every Foot Locker, definitely try the shoe on first to make sure you're grabbing the right size for you. Continuing back on the sneaker, you've got more of that gray mesh in the midfoot with the Fila logo embroidered into the side. Moving even farther back, you've got more of that synthetic leather in gray, and then you've got black nubuck rounding off the heel. Moving down on the sneaker, you've got what seems to be just a standard foam midsole. There's no boost inside, there's nothing crazy going on, it's just one piece of standard foam. The midsole is pretty heavily sculpted, and you've got some red accents and some black accents on the heel and the forefoot. Then moving to the bottom of the shoe, you've got a black rubber outsole with a very familiar organic look. On its own, the Fila Ray Tracer is not a bad sneaker, especially when you consider the fact that it's only 80 bucks. But myself being a bit of a sneaker snob, I can't really get behind this sneaker. And the reason is because it feels very ripped from the pages of the Adidas Yeezy Boost 700. Now, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you're trying to grab the 700 but you just don't have the money or you just can't find any pairs in stock, this is not a terrible way to go because it does look very similar and it is a lot cheaper. But my main problem is that it seems like Fila pretty shamelessly ripped off the design of the 700. And if you compare both shoes, you'll start to notice little things about the Fila Ray Tracer that were taken directly off the 700. The first is the material makeup and the overall shape of the shoe. Now, on its own, that's not too big of a deal. The overall silhouettes of these sneakers do look pretty similar, but let's be honest, most dad shoes look the same. Also, the fact that Fila used similar but lower quality materials on the shoe isn't inherently a bad thing, but it's the way that they did it. If you look at the front of the toes of both of these sneakers, both of them feature a suede or a nubuck toe guard. Then when you move farther back on the toe of the shoes, you'll notice that there's a very similarly shaped black panel. Now granted, the color blocking isn't exactly the same, but from a distance, it's pretty similar. The laces both come in a shade of yellow, which contrasts the entire shoe because it isn't present anywhere else on the sneaker. The tongues and the eyelets are made up of gray mesh and gray leather. Even moving around to the heel of each shoe, you'll notice that both shoes on their suede or nubuck panels have these little punch outs with 3M underneath, which is not something I've seen very often. Granted, the pattern of the punch out isn't exactly the same, but the inspiration is definitely there. Moving down to the midsole though is where the plot thickens a little bit. Both shoes feature bright orange or red accents in elongated shapes on the heel. They're not identical, but they're similar. The forefoot of the midsole is where it gets very similar. Both shoes feature a very interesting, almost ink spill looking pattern on the forefoot of the shoe, in the exact same place. It's kind of funny, I'm looking at the monitor above the camera and I couldn't actually tell which shoe is which. But wait, there's more. And this is where it gets ridiculous. Now, if I didn't actually own a pair of 700s, I couldn't tell you from this distance which outsole is the Fila and which one is the 700. This is a 700 and this is a Fila, just if you were wondering. As most of you know, the 700 has a very organically shaped outsole with punch outs through to the boost. There are a couple reasons for that. One, to allow the boost to expand a little bit under pressure, making it a little bit softer underfoot. And the second is purely marketing, to show that there actually is boost in the midsole. Whereas with the Fila Ray Tracer, there's nothing to see in these little cutouts. They're just kind of there to look like something else. That said, I'm not mad that the Ray Tracer was heavily inspired by the 700. Doesn't bother me, it doesn't really affect me in any way. I just think it's interesting. Fila knew there was a market there for people who couldn't afford the 700s or weren't informed enough to know that this wasn't the same shoe, so they went for it. And the Ray Tracer isn't even the only shoe they've done it on. They actually have their own version of the Yeezy 500 as well. And you guys know my opinion on the 500. I don't like that shoe at all. Why would you ever Want to make like a cheaper version of it. Yuck. So I wanted to make this video not only as sort of a short semi-review of the Ray Tracer, but also as a comparison between the shoe that it aspires to be like. For an $80 shoe, the Fila Ray Tracer is actually not a bad shoe. It's pretty comfortable on foot, it doesn't look bad, and the materials are pretty solid. It just looks like the Yeezy 700, so take that how you want. Let me know what you think of the Fila Ray Tracer in the comment section down below and whether you'd ever consider grabbing a pair. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.